set to go. All right, thank you. All right, to our faculty colleagues, thank you so much for joining us today. Here's what I want to do. Let me just tell you a little bit about how we're going to proceed with this webinar. I'll have a few comments of just by welcome and introduction, and then we will go around. So here's how the program is going to go. So I'll just say a few words of welcome, and then we'll have an opportunity to hear from Nancy Gonzalez, who is the Executive Vice President and University Provost. After that, after Provost Gonzalez gives her remarks, we'll go around to each campus and they'll have the opportunity to ask a question. And then we'll hear from President Crow, and we'll follow that same sequence. We'll go around to each of the campuses, they'll ask a question. And then after that, we will then open up to a general Q&A session, and you'll have the opportunity to write questions in the Q&A link that you'll see at the bottom of your screen. And when we get to that, then I will moderate that and I will share your questions. And I just want to assure you right now that if there's a question that you have that we don't have time to get to or somehow overlook, we will record those questions and we will do our best to respond to your questions and your concerns. So I just want to assure you on that. So by way of welcome, again, just thank you for joining us today. And I want to thank President Crow and Provost Gonzalez as well for making the time to meet with us. This is an important part of what we collectively do in this enterprise, is that we engage one another, we dialogue with one another. This is an opportunity we have also then to learn a little more substantively about what is going on and to ask very specific questions. So I thank you for making time to join us today. So I just want to note, and this is an obvious thing to say, that of course we're in a different position now in spring 2022 than we were in spring 2021. On the one hand, personally, I feel grateful that this enterprise that we're a part of continues to grow and to expand and to bring new opportunities and partnerships. I'm grateful to all of the hard work that goes in from our faculty colleagues and from the administrators as well, to not only keep this ship afloat, but also steering straight ahead through the storms that we encounter. So I just want to recognize the work that goes on. Often, much of it is unseen. And so again, I just want to acknowledge all that is going on in this enterprise and all that people bring to this endeavor that we're a part of. But I also want to recognize that there are complications that many of us face because of the moment that we're in. Some of those complications can have a profound impact on how we continue to advance. For example, some of our faculty who care for loved ones are facing issues in long-term care, which can and does have an impact on research and productivity. There are very understandable concerns about how ASU will respond to these colleagues in light of these challenges. And even for those of us who have either experienced minimal symptoms from Omicron or who have experienced none at all, we are all impacted to varying degrees by a pandemic that has wide-ranging effects on the economy and many of the services that we rely on. So some of those effects we feel now. There are many others that will come along that we're not aware of just yet. And so faculty have expressed concerns about how we will move ahead in the months to come, not only for our own teaching and research, but in how we as a university will ensure workplace safety and support our colleagues who are most impacted by these extraordinary times, specifically our junior faculty colleagues who are supposed to remain productive in advancing towards tenure, and our dedicated contract faculty who are understandably very concerned about the work environment and their job security as well. Personally speaking, if I have any reason to look ahead and feel that there's some light that I can look to and follow, it's that we remain part of a collaborative and dialogic process and endeavor and enterprise. There are many other universities that have not seized the initiative in the ways that we have. And I specifically want to thank our faculty colleagues who are involved in the wide-ranging effort to understand this pandemic, to devise policies that help us and enable us to continue doing what we're doing. And I want to recognize again that much of that work is unseen by many of us, but there is a tremendous collaborative team effort that is underway. And I want to recognize our faculty who are part of that. President Curl and Provost Gonzalez, I particularly am grateful to you for remaining open to us. As long as I've known you, President Curl, I've been here for 18 years, and you have always been willing to answer questions, willing to listen to ideas, willing to engage in us as well. And so I thank you for continuing doing that. I'll just close by saying this. I've worked with a number of other university presidents and other institutions. Not everyone that I've worked with, and this includes provost as well, would be willing to open themselves up and to be as open as you are with our faculty colleagues. So I just want to recognize that and thank you as well. So with that, let me go ahead and turn the time over to our provost, Nancy Gonzalez. After your comments, then, as I mentioned before, we'll go around to each of the campuses and they'll have an opportunity to ask a question. Provost Gonzalez.
Thank you very much, Eduardo, and I appreciate your comments, and I especially appreciate you acknowledging, that we've all been dealing with the pandemic for a long time, and that there have been costs, and it has been difficult. Yet we are moving forward. I think collectively in a very, very positive way, and the university is operating very smoothly. I couldn't be more pleased, to be honest with you. I didn't actually expect we'd be at the point that we are now, where we're seeing numbers drop quite dramatically and trending in the right direction. And I know that took a lot of effort. I certainly know the effort that we expend up in the administration to try to keep the campus safe. And you're right, we don't necessarily report out all that we're doing, but I just assure you that it's a constant, continuous monitoring and implementing all measures that we know to ensure the health and safety of our campus. But here we are today, and the number of known positives among our staff, which are in the range of 30,000 staff, is now under 100. And the number of known student positives, out of 71,000 students, is now under 30, and both are declining. Also, we have no hospitalizations at the moment. So these are all fantastic numbers. I know they're only estimates, but they provide very reliable information about the trends in the rates of infection. And our plan is to continue to, maintain our current operations that are working so well for us. I was actually on a call just on Monday with 10 of the other Pac-12 provosts. Sort of everybody's talking, sharing their own experiences, and several of the campuses are actually now talking about, doing away with required masks in certain places. So there is a loosening up of some of the measures. At this point, we plan to stay steady for a while longer, if not the full semester. I want to just hit on a couple of other numbers that I think, speak to the ways in which we're all moving forward together so effectively for students. And it really is first and foremost about our students, although I take your point about the ways in which faculty are being impacted. First of all, we're seeing a record number of students here this semester. Spring enrollment is higher than ever, with 71,000 plus students, which is up 3.5% from spring of 2021. Online enrollment is also up to nearly 57,000, which is a 6.3% increase, with a total enrollment of 128,000 just this spring semester. These numbers, I think, are a very strong indication that students want to be here. They want to continue advancing personally and professionally, and they understand that ASU is a place that will support them to do so. Likewise, we're seeing very robust numbers in admissions, with what looks to be about a 14% increase in undergraduate applications received from all markets for fall 2022. Again, these numbers show interest, but they're also the result of intentional efforts among all of us in the academic enterprise at all levels, where we've been guided by our charter and our focus on student access, as well as our focus on student success. We've been looking a lot at our retention numbers, retention being a very critical marker of student success. And I just want to share, because I don't know that we always do so, just some positive outcomes. We've seen a very steady trend and improvement in our retention rates between 2006 and 2020, for example. The full-time first-time on-campus student cohort increased from 8,000 to 12,000. That's just the size. So at the same time that we've been increasing our enrollments, we've also been diversifying our student population, with the percentage of Arizona students who are Pell eligible increasing from 18% to 34% during this window of time. That's nearly a doubling of Pell eligible students. Our underrepresented minority students rose from 23% of the cohort in 2006 to 38% now. And it is on the background of these massive changes that we've seen an increase in student retention, with retention rising from 77% in 2006 to 86.2% in 2020. We saw a slight dip due to COVID, the last two cohorts just down to 86%, but still these are very successful efforts that have required the collective efforts of what you're doing in your academic units to build programs, to create a sense of belonging among students. Also scalable technology ways that we stay in touch with our students and make sure that they have their needs met. I want to also say that when we look at our retention, we also see improvements among students who have come from academic backgrounds that place them at greater risk. So since 2006, our retention of first-time full-time Arizona Pell eligible students improved by 6 percentage points. Now we're in equal categories of academic preparation. We're really seeing very little difference between Pell eligible and non-Pell students. Retention of Black students improved 10 percentage points from 80 up to 81%, and retention of Hispanic students improved by almost 8.5 percentage points, up to 85.1%. Likewise, retention of American Indian students improved 13.5 percentage points, up to 81.5. While we still see differential outcomes, the gaps are closing, and we remain very committed to see continued progress on these measures. So I just want to take some time to share some of these numbers because they illustrate how our collective efforts are allowing us to serve our mission of access, excellence, student success, and our commitment to the communities we serve as outlined in our charter. So then I want to just address one point because I know I've been getting more questions about this. I want to just also emphasize that ASU also has in its mission as a design aspiration to engage globally. And I'm very proud that we've made significant gains in our efforts to provide educational opportunities for international students, both on campus and through many global programs and partnerships. ASU is currently ranked the #1 public university chosen by international students. We've got over 13,000 international students coming from more than 152 countries. Our Thunderbird School of Global Management has centers of excellence in 11 different countries now. And we have been further expanding our global footprint through a partnership with Sintana that is now at a point that we have some progress to share. So I want to just briefly touch on that. With Sintana and its founder, Doug Becker, ASU has been launching a network of affiliations with international universities that we call Powered by ASU. Powered by ASU, meaning that we are able to provide the excellent resources that ASU has been developing, digital resources for advancing education that allow us to share these with these partner institutions so that they can use them to advance their own educational agenda for their students in country. This allows us to have a positive impact across the world and help other universities outside the US serve a mission of educational access and success. We currently have launched partnerships with 9 universities in Costa Rica, Turkey, India, the Ukraine, Ecuador, Almaty, Mexico, Egypt, and Vietnam. I was just in Cairo, Egypt for the signing of a new partnership with Galala University. I was there with the signing event included the Egyptian Ministry of Higher Education, the US ambassador to Egypt, presidents of Galala University, ASU, other ASU vice presidents, and also Doug Becker from Sintana. The signing took place in Giza, right in front of the Great Pyramid as our backdrop, and it was a very powerful experience for me to see the ways in which Egypt as a nation, but also Galala University shares so much of our mission to serve their students and really think about the future development of their citizens. So maybe some of you may be wondering why we are launching these, and I'd have to say it's really for the same reasons, the same goals that we have for our students, which is access and excellence and bringing opportunities to students who might not otherwise have access to a modernized education or international study without this type of partnerships. And we also do expect that many students from these affiliate universities will at one point also come to ASU and become part of our international student population here and receive some of their education here at ASU. So we will be kind of announcing a little bit more about these partnerships with all of the colleges that will be engaged. We're very excited about this development, and again, it helps us serve our mission on a global scale, which is also part of our design aspirations. So I'm going to end there and take any questions, and I'll take questions about, anything I spoke about, but really, I'm sure you have wide-ranging questions that I'm very open to hear.
Thank you so much, Provost Gonzalez. So we will go around to the campuses and start with the downtown campus with Johanna Uri Glover. Johanna, do you have a question you'd like to ask?
I do have a question from the downtown campus. Thank you, Provost Gonzalez. Is ASU still conducting contact tracing? If not, why not?
Yeah, ASU is continuing, when we know of positive cases, are continuing to provide individuals with information about how they should themselves deal with their symptoms and their positive diagnosis, including the length of time that they should be away. And when necessary, they are contacting people who are likely exposed. So we do continue to gather information about exposure, but that's sort of done on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johanna. Let's go over next to the Polytechnic campus. Chris Kaiselka.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here, Provost Gonzalez. My question is about the Great Resignation and how it is impacting many employers, including some areas here at ASU. So how is this being addressed so that ASU is the employer of choice for faculty and staff?
Yes, so we certainly have seen, I think where it's been most evident is that we see fewer applicants for jobs, but not no applicants. So we're still able to fill positions. And one of the things that we've done, as many of you know, is we implemented a flexible work policy and a remote work policy so that we are allowing faculty and staff, I should say, not faculty are in a different category. We are allowing staff to spend part of their time working remotely. It just has to be good for the university, and they have to kind of work with their unit leads to kind of figure out the best approach to that. But we have been receiving many applications for that and approving those, and in some cases even allowing full remote. So that's been the best way that we've been responsive to some of these concerns. I think that we also we're going to continue to watch. We implemented the policies at one point, and I sort of think we are still in a phase of waiting to see what happens, as things continue to evolve or resolve, or wherever we're headed in terms of pandemic versus endemic versus outbreaks, et cetera. So we will continue to watch and make adjustments as needed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Let's go next to the Tempe campus. LaDawn Haglund.
Thank you so much for joining us, Provost Gonzalez. I do have a question that's maybe related to the last one. Given the inflationary effects of the pandemic and higher cost of living that people are facing, is the university considering a cost of living increase for the employees?
We are in the process of kind of evaluating where we are with that. We certainly are in discussions about that, but I don't really have any firm decisions to make about what we should expect, but anything that would be implemented, we would be expecting to see in the next fiscal year.
Thank you, LaDon. Next, the West Campus, Mary Burleson.
Hi, thank you for being here, Nancy. I appreciate it a lot. I think we all do. My question is coming from basically several different faculty who've expressed uncertainty about what the policy is for them to conduct their classes if they become ill. So one colleague was told it was okay to Zoom into his class, and another colleague was told that it was not okay. And so we feel uncertain about what we can do.
Okay, thank you. So I think the most important thing is for faculty to be in touch with their unit directors when they are in that situation. And we had recommended several policies. One is to make sure that you're anticipating, and so that you have backups arranged, because there might be a situation where you are ill enough that you actually can't even Zoom in. So we are asking faculty to do that and to be in touch with your director right away, so that we're not leaving students hanging or needing to cancel classes. But we also want to make it possible for faculty to use the Zoom technology to move into Zoom into classes. That does require that you have somebody in the room who is informed and aware and able to set things up. So that's why that contact with the unit director is so important, so that you can get all of those processes in place. But we have the flexibility of using Zoom, so that is a method that we certainly, that's a method that can be used.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So now just to remind everyone, what we will do is that before we move, or we will move over to President Pro, again, we'll do the same round of the different campuses, and then we'll be open forum. We'll have the opportunity to ask questions directly to the provost or to the president. So I appreciate those two faculty who have posted some questions online right now. We will get to them in just a moment in the open forum. So I promise you we'll read them. President Crow, welcome.
Yes, thank you, Eduardo. It's really great to have a chance to be here. Let me start by saying, I mean, here we are in, approaching the second week of February, and university's fully operational by every measure in the middle of this great pandemic, hopefully soon to be endemic, hopefully soon to be outbreak oriented viral situation. And I just want to say thank you to all the faculty and the leadership of the faculty for what you've done to help the institution to stay focused on our mission. We are considered an essential enterprise. We gained that status early in the pandemic. We were at first not going to be included as an essential enterprise. And just to remind everyone, we gained that status. That gave us access to vaccines immediately, which wasn't the case. We weren't on the list for vaccines, if you'll remember. So through a combination of vaccines, testing, masking, appropriate behavior by most people, we've been able to find a way to move the institution forward. And I just want to say thank you. It is the case that this has been a challenging moment for all of us, a challenging moment for our families, for our community, for our broader nation, for the institution itself, and for each and every one of you individually. As you work with your students, as you teach your classes, as you work with families, I mean, all these things. And I think faculty are aware of the fact that, all of the other aspects of the institution, even in the middle of the pandemic, go forward. Student alcohol issues, student conduct issues, student suicides, everything else that one would imagine during non-pandemic times is going on during pandemic times. And that means all of you as the faculty are dealing with, students who are having emotional heartbreak, who are having family disruptions, and all of that is accelerated in our present pandemic state. And so I just, again, wanted to say thank you. I couldn't be prouder. I couldn't be happier to be a part of this institution. I couldn't be more proud to be, all of us in the same canoe here, paddling as hard as we can to get through the rapids. And canoes, by the way, I've been in many canoes and I've swamped many canoes. I've even been injured going over rapids in a canoe. and had one of my arms opened up a little bit by some rocks. And so it takes a lot to keep a canoe from capsizing when you're in the rapids. And we've kept our canoe upright and moving forward through these rapids. And that requires everyone in the canoe, more than one paddler, balancing your weight, shifting everything. There's no one driver. There's no nothing. Canoes don't work by drivers. There's no captains of a canoe. And so I just really appreciate our ability and your willingness to make these things happen. Our situation report, Provost Gonzalez, gave an update on enrollment, unbelievable, diversity, unbelievable, achievement by our students, unbelievable. Really, that's the case throughout the institution. Record research, record enrollment, record graduation, record diversity, fantastic fundraising. Our financial situation is solid. Our financial management team at the unit level and at the university level and at the enterprise level, all three levels, managed our way through the pandemic, where people say, well, how many people did you lay off to save money? Well, none. How many salaries did you reduce? None. And so that has then allowed us to continue to have enrollment and have revenue and have success and make things happen, as well as writing more research proposals and so forth. So financially, we're on very solid footing. To LaDawn's question earlier on salary adjustments, in general, I'll just say we don't look at across the board raises, but we do look at very healthy merit raises, and which most people are able to benefit from. And so we have in our budget models, yet to be finalized, as Provost Gonzalez suggested, those kinds of investments in the model. So we're hopeful that we secure the revenue that we need to be able to afford those things. And the same inflation that you were, that was the genesis of your question, that same inflation affects us also as an institution. So it's a complicated thing, and I can come back to that. What I will say is during the pandemic, the folks that we work with, our partners, our contractors and others, we have 10 new buildings that have been designed, built, and launched or almost launched during the pandemic. New facilities in Mesa, called the Mix facility, which is a world-class digital creativity facility. The new facility in downtown Los Angeles that's available to you all on the faculty to work with your chairs and your directors and your deans to develop new programs. The new facility on the Mayo Phoenix campus for our alliance with the Mayo Clinic, the new Fusion on First facility in downtown Phoenix for both academic programs, creative programs, and hundreds of students that are creating new enterprises living there. The new ISTB 7, Interdisciplinary Science and Technology Building number 7, that will be renamed as we open it with a nice name and some recognition for some donors, which we will announce at that time. That's now up and running. And I won't walk through all these buildings, other than there's almost 15 of these things. They are fantastic new additions to the mix of all the things that we're doing, and we're excited about that, as well as continued investment in the renovation of facilities. The building of new Durham Hall, for instance, is now fully open for the School of International Letters and Languages and Cultures, and so we're very excited about that. And so all of that's been going on and going on and going on. And so all in all, I mean, we've just been doing fantastically. I do want to say something now that we have appointed Chris Howard as Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the Enterprise, which is the entity which is attempting to provide the support and mechanisms of enhancement for the three enterprises: the academic enterprise, which Provost Gonzalez leads, the learning enterprise, which Maria Anguiano leads, and the knowledge enterprise, which Sally Morton leads. With Chris Howard here now, and with Morgan Olson then as the Chief Financial Officer of both the enterprise and the university, the team is in place. And the way to view this is that the leader of the institution for the leader of the ASU enterprise for the academic enterprise is Nancy. My job is to help her. The rest of our jobs are to help her to take this very, very complicated organization, with you on the faculty being also a part of the management of what we're doing and where we're going and so forth and so on, is to make all of that work. And then with the learning enterprise, just to repeat some things I've said before, Maria Anguiano's very, very complicated assignment is how do you take other assets not related to degree programs that ASU faculty produce, that the ASU library has available, that ASU partners have available, that ASU students have developed, and so forth and so on, and make these assets available to learners everywhere. High school learners, middle school learners, teachers, families, people working in their jobs, moms teaching their kids, dads teaching their kids at home. How do you take all these assets that we have and make the university more valuable and more impactful to them? And so that's Maria's job. And then Sally, her job is to take this institution here in Arizona in its entirety and do something that is commonplace in other states. In California, they have the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. They have the Lawrence Livermore Laboratory. They have the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory, massive federal facilities. They have in Colorado, the National Renewable Energy Center. They have, I won't walk you through all these things, food laboratories, medical laboratories, psychological laboratories, everything imaginable. And they're all in some place other than Arizona. And so how do we take our fantastic faculty, our creative interdisciplinary world that we are creating here at ASU, and how do we take that and make that into more than just the output of several thousand faculty and several tens of thousands of students and staff doing research? How do we build the laboratories that we think the world needs, like the Global Futures Laboratory, led by Peter Schlosser and that team, or the Interplanetary Initiative, led by Lindy Elkins-Tanton and her emerging team, or new projects that we're doing in the social sciences and the behavioral sciences? And how do we evolve the knowledge enterprise called ASU? So Nancy, Sally, and Maria are driving forward all that we have. And Chris Howard's appointment, and you'll have a chance to meet him. He was most recently the president of Robert Morris University and was a university president before that. Also, he's come in to help all of us to make these things work. And so this enterprise model, perhaps we can spend more time. Certainly I'll work with University Academic Council with a deeper dive in terms of the enterprise model and how it's evolving. The way to look at this is that we're trying to do everything we can to avoid becoming a bureaucratic academic university system, like so many schools have become. And our enterprise model is allowing us to do that. Let me turn to COVID just for a second. And so it is amazing to me that you all and I work at an institution where you pick up the phone and you say, can I have an epidemiological study every single day, 7 days a week on the epidemiology of COVID in our student body living on campus, our staff, our faculty, the zip codes in which we operate, the county in which we live, and the state in which we operate? No problem. So now for almost 2 years, for every single day, 7 days a week, faculty and staff at ASU have produced that epidemiological study. And not only have they done that, but they have then taken tools that our other faculty and staff have developed, where we now have been tracking, for instance, Omicron B.2, the second Omicron variant. We knew the day that arrived among folks in our community, because we're doing DNA analysis, and this is going into the epidemiology of what's going on around here. And so we had some sense and have some sense going forward of basically as much as we can possibly know, including virus concentrations in wastewater streams coming out of residence halls, to know whether or not we've got outbreak level or controllable level or pandemic level occurrences in our residence halls, including every analysis that you can possibly imagine, including how are we doing overall relative to the evolution of this particular pandemic. And so faculty and staff have been doing that. Other faculty and staff in the middle of this pandemic have then also been laying down track for where do we need to go. So we have a great proposal in front of the state right now to create an Arizona Health Observatory. The purpose of the observatory is to draw together all of our faculty expertise, social sciences, math, statistics, epidemiology, science, engineering, public health technology, all the tools that we have. And can we build an institution within Arizona that can be predictive so that we can get in front of these pandemics, or in front of what my grandchildren now refer to as, COVID zombie version, some other not so friendly version of the COVID virus that is a variant. And so how can you get in front of this? Early detection, early response, DNA analysis, wastewater analysis. And how do you do this on an ongoing and constant basis? And so proposals like that one, which is one of 300 or more proposals that have been developed by our faculty and our staff during COVID, it's really unbelievable to see. Again, you just pick up the phone. It's like the commissioner in Batman. You just sort of put the light up there, and then somebody appears, and then the thing gets fixed. And so it's really quite fantastic. What I will say, as Nancy already illustrated, is that the senior management group of the university, informed by our scientists, informed by our medical advisors, informed by every tool that we have, is tracking, monitoring, and evaluating everything that we can about how we're doing. Right now, the safest place that you could be in terms of the spread of COVID anywhere is a residence hall at Arizona State University. It's almost, we don't even know what's going on. We don't know if the students are just locked in their rooms and, with towels under the doors, and, you use those towels for other reasons, but, it's possible that you could keep the COVID out with those. And so that's the safest place. We also know, for instance, that the spread of COVID is person to person to person to person by our faculty and staff, and within groups between our students, but not between the student groups and the faculty and staff. So we still have substantial evidence that leads us to conclude that we're not getting spread by doing our job here at the university. And so we're very excited about that. And what I will say to you, because we get asked this all the time, we will adjust up or down on a scale of decisions relative to how we're going to operate the university each time the data drives us to be able to do that. Now, for those of you that watch the sad comedy Don't Look Up, you'll realize that data is a thing that's hard for people to understand that don't understand what data is. And so it turns out that Provost Gonzalez helps me with the data, and we understand, we do understand the data. And so our data is telling us that, as she said, things are moving in the right direction. So let me add that this week I'll be presenting to the Arizona Board of Regents what we have traditionally called the OFR, the Operational and Financial Review. It's more than 100 slides. Will Eduardo remind me, and we'll get it out to everybody so everybody on the academic senate can see it. But in there, you will be smiling by just what you and your faculty colleagues have been able to achieve. I mean, it's literally beyond belief. And for a while, I thought the regents were trying to get us not to present it because it was maybe, too much. And so nonetheless, we're presenting it, and you'll be able to watch. I don't remember the exact time, but you'll be able to watch, and Senate staff can put out a notice on that. And so all of the executive vice presidents will be there. I'll be there. We'll be talking to the regents, and that's a really important thing. I will say, down at the legislature, we're doing everything we can to block things that are not constructive to the success of the institution, like guns on campus, concealed weapons on campus. Our police chief, Michael Thompson, newly minted PhD, I might add, he went down and spoke vigorously against guns on campus. And what I didn't understand from some of the questions that came to him from some of the members of the legislature was, well, you're very supportive of the police until they tell you something that you don't like. And our police are telling you, with all of their experience and all of their training, that concealed weapons on campus is a bad idea. And we're doing all that we can to keep our campuses the way that they are, and hopefully we will find a way to prevail. I'll also say that the governor's budget did include additional investments for ASU to take a lead role in the New Economy Initiative, which would be a wonderful additional investment in us. And then also there's resources in the governor's budget request to the legislature for additional financial aid for students from Arizona to attend the university. In fact, there's enough in there if we could get the full request to help pay for the tuition of thousands of students from Arizona, which we're very excited about. So overall, things are in great shape. Things are performing at a very high level. Lots of great things. I will say an odd thing, just to be sure that you guys know this. There are sections of the biology 181 class this semester which have found a strange thing. They found a way to beam up to an alien zoo where they're taking their laboratory for Bio 181 on a spaceship 8 miles across and a mile deep, in which they're actually conducting their laboratory experiments on this spaceship. Now, if you want to do that, just to see what it is, you let Lisa Flesher know, or Eduardo, you get as many of the senators together as you can, and you guys go over there and get a pack together and take a few of the modules to get a sense of how this thing is working. I kid you not. You're not sure that you haven't beamed up to that thing. You're not sure where you are, but you are sure that you're doing some kind of a science experiment. And so this entire 181 class is now greatly enhanced by this Dreamscape partnership that we have and this new way of teaching and learning. So Eduardo, let me stop there and see if there are comments or questions.
Thank you so much, President Crow. Before we go around to the different campuses, I just wanted to share with you, I was speaking to a member of the community who made this comment, aren't you glad to have a scientist as the president of the university? I didn't correct him, but I think this was a testament to your engagement with data and your ability to amass that information and then be able to turn it into something that we can use. So
I am sadly, like all other generic college graduates, a political science graduate. So.
Okay, so I guess you qualify then. All right, thank you. Let's go to the downtown campus. Johanna.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Crow. My question is, you talked about all the wonderful things that we've done in the area of testing and vaccines. Will ASU consider providing rapid in-home tests that can produce results in less than an hour?
So we have those now and they're available to you. I think we bought 60,000 of them or something like that. And so those are available for situations that need them. We've had some visitors that became positive while they were here, and we were all interested in knowing, like, right away if these people were positive. Sometimes there's situations. And so, Nancy, I don't know how we're making them available, but we have 3 types of tests available to ASU folks. So we have the unbelievably accurate, unbelievably powerful saliva-based PCR test, which we've all taken. In fact, my wife's been gone for a while, and she said, I don't know where you've been. You better get one of those tests. And so, I brought one in yesterday so I can meet my requirements to, go home. And then we have a high-speed antigen-based test that you can get at the health centers on each campus. So those tests are available, and I don't know how long those take, but those are like 15 minutes or 30 minutes or something like that. And then we also have the home tests. And so if you know that you have a situation where you need a high-speed home test, we've got those. Now, we're not going to send them out to everyone, but we've got them available. Nancy, do you know how we're making the home tests available?
The student health centers have the home tests.
Yeah.
So you
you
can contact student health for those, anything but the PCR. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So student health centers aren't just for students. They're health centers on each campus. And so Johanna, so we've got those 3 types of tests, and if it looks like we're running out of the home-based tests, we'll get more of those. And we found a good deal on them for only $6. So.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Crow.
All right, thank you, Johanna. Chris.
Yes, President Crow, thank you for being here today. As you know, COVID's on our minds right now, and I have another question pertaining to that. You mentioned the Arizona Health Observatory as a new initiative, but even beyond that, what are some new measures that are under consideration to keep classrooms and campus safe for faculty, staff, and students? It's been said many times that we need to learn to coexist with COVID. So what can we look for?
Thank you, Chris. What we've been doing, we're sort of lacking a better term, fastidious in our logic, and that is, we're still continuing to clean facilities. We're still working on and have enhanced air handling systems. We're continuing to do that. We have spent a lot of money on Zoom capability. So if you can't be in the classroom, like I'm teaching this semester, and some of my students are coming in by Zoom, and we're beaming out the class, all the time. We're going to continue with the Health Observatory, as you noted. We're going to continue trying to figure out how to enhance our monitoring. Could we pick up an outbreak? Let's say we go into endemic modality, and lo and behold, next November, there's a new outbreak and of a new variant. We'd like to know about that the day it happens, so that we can start reacting. So we're going to be speeding up things with the new systems that we have, the new technologies that we have. I think we did acquire and make available to everybody medical grade masks, KN95s and N95 masks for everybody. I hope everybody knew that and understood that. Those masks, I mean, the N95 mask, that's the best that exists short of a machine. And you don't want to be wearing a machine. So what we're doing also there, Chris, is we're stockpiling everything. So we're stockpiling more testing equipment. We're stockpiling more masks. We're stockpiling all the tools and the assets that we've got. Nancy, what else are we doing? I mean, that might be the whole list, but.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing the health check app.
Oh,
just
health
to
check app,
everybody-
yes.
Yeah.
And so the, all of us, I mean, my son's entire family had COVID at one time. I was just at my daughter's house in Western Massachusetts, where, it's a completely different world over there, relative to COVID. The people in my office right outside that door, I think all but one of them have had COVID, all from home. I mean, they were getting COVID when they weren't even here in the office. And so what we need is, Chris, what we really need is early warning, early response, early adaptation. And so we might find ourselves, where we're masking for this and not masking for this, or we're doing certain things in certain residence halls, or residence halls have been amazingly not our issue. That there was only one occasion, the fall of 2020, what after the Halloween weekend, that was the only time that there was a residence hall super spike. And so I think that's all the stuff that we're working on. And we're not, as Nancy knows, surely she knows by now that like I'm Mr. Groundhog. I mean, you just start over every day, honing until you get it right, or the alarm clock stops waking you up if you haven't seen that movie.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. LaDawn, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Crow. One of the questions that came up in the chat or in the Q&A, and I encourage other faculty to post your questions there as well, is related to what you were just talking about. We have all of this wonderful data at ASU about the epidemiology of COVID here. And the question from Rachel Martinez is what the university is doing with that information, and whether we're playing any role in informing the wider public or plan to do so moving forward.
Well, thank you for that question. And so the answer is we are a part of every effort that you can possibly imagine to inform everyone with what we know. And not everyone wants to know. But that doesn't keep us from being obnoxious. And so our crews are a part of the broader epidemiology analysis. There's a team down at the University of Arizona. We're working with them. They're working with us. We have a good and solid relationship with the Arizona Department of Health Services. We're looking to them, looking to try to get out in front of this. And so we're doing all that we can. Everybody's weary of this thing. I will tell you, and this is one of the things, Nancy might comment on this, we don't get weary. We don't get weary. What we try to do is let's learn from this. And so since we're all learners, since we're all inherently learning oriented, we turn this into, not only being of service, but into a project, into an experiment. I'm walking by Professor Doug Lake's lab a few months ago out at the Mayo Health Solutions building, and he says, "Hey, Dr. Crow, I need your blood. You want to be a part of a system so I can see how long these vaccines last?" I said, "Okay." So he took my blood And then a few days later, I got another shot. And then now apparently I've been giving my blood every 2 weeks for now several months. And he comes back and he says to me, well, you still have some immunity, but not much. And so, and that's good. And so what Doug did, he's got hundreds of people in this study. What he's done now is he's figuring out, well, how long do the boosters last? Or how long does the second shot last? Or how long does the first shot last? And so we have lots of Professor Lakes around here, all doing their studies and so forth and so on. So this is the other thing that we're doing. And so we try to take these findings, take this insight, take these perspectives, take what we've got going on and keep as many people informed as possible. I was communicating with former Surgeon General Rick Carmona today several times, trying to get this Arizona Health Observatory up and off the ground, because now we know we can do it. And I asked Josh LeBaire at a meeting earlier today that he was at, that some of you attended, could we have done this 2 years ago? And the answer was no. And so we hope that we have convinced the Arizona Department of Health Services to use the taxpayer dollars that we've now indebted ourselves to take to spend for COVID-related things, to spend them on COVID-related things and build a capability going forward. Because, as you suggested, this pandemic well, anyway, the pandemic may be approaching some phase transition, but the virus is not going away. And so we need every system that we can possibly put in place. So yes, we're working with all those groups, and I appreciate that question.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that question, LaDon. Mary, over to you. You're on mute, Mary.
Still muted. Now not. Oh, now muted without the red. This is the only sign language that I know. More.
Okay,
There you go.
That was
Good,
weird.
Mary.
the host muted me after I unmuted myself. That's
Yeah.
sad. Okay, so first question. Given what we know about the importance of social connection for our health and having people that we can confide in or be around or just feel comforted by being near, and given the fact that the pandemic itself has interfered with that, have you thought about adding an item or items regarding social connection to the daily health check?
Well, I think that's a good idea. And I'm going to ask Provost Gonzalez to talk to the folks in our partner SAFE and our enterprise technology team. I think that's a good idea. And then perhaps even, I think one might even query individuals, related to that, related to their mental health, where are they relative to that? So I have an app on my Fitbit that asks me, how I'm doing, and it asks if I'm calm and what my state of mind is. And then it takes all the other data and then produces this stuff. It's really kind of cool. But the other thing we should think about, I think, to Mary's question, Nancy, is we do have apps for students that are related to mental health, where they're able to communicate with a chat bot that determines, if there's a service that they need or help that they need or a person that they need to talk to. We might think about that. So that's a very good idea. So I think that we should think about that, and I'll ask Provost Gonzalez to do that.
Yeah, great idea. Asked
Thank you.
like a true social psychologist, Mary.
Biosocial.
All right, thank you, Mary. So now we move over to the open forum. And so my faculty colleagues, you're free to ask questions. And we do have some already in the Q&A. And so in my role as the moderator, I will start with the questions. And again, I just reassure you, if for some reason we don't get your question, we will find the answer and get that information to you. So to begin with, if we go back to our Provost Gonzalez, as you had mentioned earlier about our connections and relationships that we're developing around the world, there's a question about Doga College in Turkey, and we would like, there's a question to hear a little bit more about the partnership. And as indicated in this question, I think it revolves around K through 12, but I wonder if you could say some more about that.
So I'm not aware as much of this particular partnership that you're asking about.
Well, what I know is that what I can say is that there are ASU Prep has a unit called ASU Prep Digital. ASU Prep Digital, which has high school courses, credit-bearing college courses, adaptive learning courses, does have some small partnerships with high schools around the world or academies. And sometimes, I don't know about this specific one, but there are institutions called colleges that are actually junior and senior years of high school kind of thing. And so maybe the questioner has more details, but there isn't, the Sintana partnership in Turkey is with a university called Bilgi, which is a different institution, but there are some project level work going on with ASU Prep Digital. So we can get you the details on that and see where we are. I don't happen to know the specifics of that, but I know they were working with some academies or high schools in the Middle East. In the Middle East and Turkey, I should say, to be more accurate.
All right, thank you. We'll see if we can follow up on that particular institution. If I could follow up with that as well, some of the questions we've been getting about, you'd mentioned Sintana and our relationship with different institutions around the world. Some of the questions we've been getting is come from faculty in different units that will be affected, and questions about how they will be engaged in this relationship. Is there anything that you can speak to or share with us about how the faculty units in engineering, for example, or Mary Lou Fulton with this university in Egypt, how will they be engaged and involved in the development of new programming there?
Well, let me take it at the macro level, then I'll turn to Nancy for more details. And so our objective with the relationship with Sintana is to take our projectable assets, those things that we have that are technologically empowered, already technologically designed, already developed by faculty and staff, and build relationships with universities around the world that are trying to build new kinds of institutions. All are not for profit or public. So they're either private or public, but they're not for profit institutions. That is, they do not seek profits. Our partner Sintana is a learning management company that's bringing assets to these universities in these other countries that include management assistance, design assistance, financial assistance. They bring academic assistance in the form of us. Our assets go in the form of a consumable. What are we calling it again, Nancy? You told me earlier and I keep forgetting. Repository. It then turns out that we're working with, and then I'll shift to Nancy here, we're working with each of these universities in a different way, where some of our courses, some of our content can be a part of their degree programs. And then ultimately we will have, in different ways between different schools at ASU and different colleges and universities around the world, some 3+1 degrees, 4+1 degrees, 3+2 degrees, to use the older terms, something we already do in the US. And then what we're also looking for is the top students from these institutions then ultimately coming to ASU physically as international students to be a part of what we do here, either for the finishing of their bachelor's degree or the launching of a master's degree. So the details vary based on unit, but maybe Nancy can talk about where we're going with all of this. I will say that all of these projects, and so one of the projects is the new American University in Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. And that is a project now being strongly supported by the American government, strongly supported by the Ukrainian government, strongly supported by companies in the Ukraine. And what that means then is that we're working on projects that are considered to be in the broader interest of the evolution of relationships with America and American institutions. So I'll just add that. So it's not a random set of institutions, it's in particular places. And so Egypt, for instance, as complicated as it is, has been a strong ally of the United States since Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin came together with President Carter and launched the peace treaty between Israel and Egypt. Now, the country's been complicated up and down since then, but they've decided, as Nancy has now seen, they're building entire new districts of universities, entire new cities. They're working to evolve their economies and modernize and so forth. So Nancy, what does this mean down at the department level, unit level, faculty level?
Yeah. Well, let me just highlight a couple of things and then I'll try to expand on it. First of all, it's absolutely the case that each one of these evolves in a different way. So it, you know, depends on what this other university is looking for. So for example, we've got a partnership with AUG in Guadalajara, Mexico, where they're very interested in partnering with us around their education of medical students. And so we will be partnering with them and several the deans of the colleges that are involved in, you know, the College of the Natural Sciences and the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Health Solutions, Nursing, are very excited to be able to help them with information from our repository that they can use to get their medical students up to speed to be ready for medical education. And they're trying to serve a group of students who wouldn't otherwise be able to qualify for medical school. And as it turns out,
similar missions to some of our missions.
yes, exactly. And as it turns out, many of those students will be US students, because a lot of students do get their education outside the US because our own schools are so competitive. So in Gualala, the interest there at the outset is more on engineering and business. And so they evolve in very different ways, and they're complicated. And so what happens is we have to first figure out how we do it at an institutional level and some at a national level. What are the regulatory processes in Egypt? What are they in the US? We're very, very careful to make sure we protect things like our accreditation processes in the US. So we're not going to jump into something that's going to threaten you know, the integrity of our own programs. And then they evolve over time with some careful planning with the academic enterprise here at ASU. And then once we sort of figure out what direction we're headed, which is kind of where we're at now with Gualala, then, you know, down to the unit, they will start getting involved. But the whole focus here is by using the repository, we're not expecting to, you know, take a lot of resources from the units. We know that we were teaching our own students, but there will be great opportunities for faculty in the US and at ASU to be able to engage with those universities to the extent that they want to.
Yeah, let me give you a funny story that shocked me. The year is 2016. I happened to be in Moscow, and I happened to be talking to a guy named Ed Crawley. Now, Ed was on leave from MIT, where he was a chaired professor, the Ford Professor of Aeronautical Engineering, famous designer of aerospace systems. And Ed had been in Moscow for 5 years. Ed, what are you doing? Oh, well, I'm building the new Skokolo Tech. What's that? Well, it's the MIT project that the Russian government has paid us to build a completely new university of the highest possible quality in Russia. I'm like, what? And so I go over there, take a look at the place. I'm there reviewing proposals on a project that I was a part of, a committee that I was a part of. And so what I found was that MIT was paid $150 million up front, as well as all costs plus 25% to build a new functioning world-class science university in Russia. I'm like, what? And so it turns out that as you wander around the world, there are American universities creating institutions, establishing institutions one at a time all over the planet in different kinds of ways. Well, we're capable of working in more than one place at one time because of our technological assets. So MIT, you know, took their wares and helped build this university and then generated substantial revenue for their university while doing this at the same time. And then lo and behold, I was at a meeting shortly after that in Marrakesh, Morocco. I had been invited there by Lorene Powell Jobs, who runs the Emerson Collective and is a wealthy philanthropist in California. So I get invited to this meeting, and I go to this meeting, and we're supposed to gin up ideas and all kinds of other stuff. And I see that there's like 6 senior officers from MIT at this meeting. Now, MIT is a tiny, 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 tiny little school. And they've got like 6 people at this meeting. And they're talking about the universities that they're building in North Africa and the institutions that they're evolving with and the use of their open source courseware that they've developed on a global basis. Last Thursday, I'm just trying to give the Senate, you know, just some sense of the true emergence of global universities going to our global engagement design aspiration. So I'm in Boston last Thursday. I'm racing over to 141 Portland Street, which is in an old industrial district that's been rebuilt in Cambridge. And in this building, 141 Portland, is the headquarters of edX. Now, edX is the spin-out teaching enterprise of Harvard and MIT that they just sold to the company 2U for $800 million. The $800 million they're putting into an endowment to create a whole new foundation, which is really the money grubbing me, was really there to get at the 800 million. But then edX, which is this joint project of MIT and Harvard that ASU also has some content in, is a globally positioned millions of students engagement with massive amounts of the faculty of Harvard and MIT are engaged in the preparation of the materials for those things. Now, they won't give any degrees. We do. And so because we have a different view of scarcity and a different view of students. And so apologize for the longer answer here, but what we're trying to do here is, I'll be darned if we're going to be just sitting back and watching these institutions roam around the planet and build their view of universities. And so we found a partner in Centana that could help us to build these relationships. And I will tell you, and Nancy already knows this, and she and I have had 4, 5, 6 conversations on the complexities of this. It is complex. We know that it has to be a non-disruptive to everything that we're doing here. It has to be additive in every possible way. Additive in terms of opportunity, additive in terms of resources, additive in terms of reputation, additive in terms of impact. And so we're approaching it from this perspective. Nancy is our point person. And then one of her vice presidents, Julia Rosen, is the leader of this Centana relationship and all the things that she's got going on. And the other vice provosts that work with Nancy on her team, they're a part of helping to make this all work with the deans and so forth. But there's no intention to disrupt the faculty. We have to be very sensitive to accreditation. That's probably our biggest concern. We just had fantastic reaccreditation in engineering, and we're not expecting any university level accreditation issues. And so, Nancy, anything you want to add to this long answer? Sorry, Eduardo.
No, I think you covered it very well. And yeah.
Thank you so much. So again, we have other questions I want to get to, but I just want to acknowledge and put on the table that I think some of the concerns coming from our colleagues have to do with resource implications and also oversight of the content, faculty oversight as well. But again, I appreciate it's an evolving situation.
Well, just to be clear, so the vice provost in charge of all this stuff are faculty members. so they share the same views, and we're not in the business of saying to people, you have to do this even if you don't want to. We don't do that. Now we might find another way to do it, but we're not in that business. That's not how we operate. So.
All right, thank you for that reassurance. All right, so we have a question about the impact of the pandemic and the transitioning from in-person to sync, how stressful that's been. So since we have 80% vaccinations done by faculty, are we going to require faculty to stay in person and treat COVID as a normal infection? Students are stressed when they have a mix of courses that are in person and in sync. So I guess this question is, as we proceed going forward, the modalities that will be operating, and just recognizing again the impact this has on students.
Well, so our numbers tell us that more than 90% of the faculty are vaccinated.
Okay.
And probably something on the order of 98% are vaccinated or have been infected, or both. And so we're operating, and Nancy, you should comment on this. We're operating under the notion that we don't have any. All of our classes are in person right now, all of them, unless a person can't be there. And so all of our classes are operating in that modality. If for some reason we get a new variant and we have to go back to another way of operating, we'll switch to the other way. It is most likely right now that we're going to go in the other direction, as Nancy suggested, in general, we think that the faculty and academic support staff are well protected. In fact, we know that the virus isn't going away, and that protection is the key. And maybe I'm not answering it exactly, but Nancy, you want to jump in here?
I guess the only thing I would add is that we, when a faculty member does have a positive diagnosis, we do expect they can come back quickly. I mean, we're not having people remain in quarantine for a long period of time. We want them to from the time of infection or when they start to see their symptoms diminish, they can come back, the next week. They just have to wear masks. And so those are our protocols. So we really are trying to minimize the amount of time that faculty are away, because we value our in-person experience and we really want to protect that and make sure that stays robust.
Well, the number of faculty positives at the moment is something on the order of 40 or 30 out of thousands of faculty members.
Thank you for that. And this is one thing that I am hearing is that we have this kind of macro view of what's happening at ASU in general. But then colleagues will contact me and say, 10% of my unit is out sick and 30% of my classes, So there is a difference in perception. We don't have time to get deeper into that.
There's always differences in perception. I mean, that's the nature of our species.
Thank you. Now, this one is from Debbie Davis Strong. And so she's acknowledging she's commenting on a couple of things. She says, as a graduate of ASU with 2 degrees from ASU, beginning as a student in the early 1990s, she says, I'm proud to be a part of this wonderful organization. We're among the largest educational institutions in the world and have been focused on expansion for quite some time. Is there a point at which we are expanded and scaled sufficiently and will turn our focus elsewhere? Or do you anticipate expansion and growth focus continuing indefinitely?
Well, I mean, I think physically there are certainly limits for our on-campus full immersion environment, and we're nowhere near those limits now. We have 2 not fully built out campuses. We have lots of opportunities in downtown Phoenix. I think we're estimating in the 2027 goals, 90,000 students, which would make us physically slightly about the same size as the University of Toronto. And so people don't realize that the greatest university in Canada is huge. I mean, it's a massive institution. And then on the online side, on the asynchronous online side, that's a totally different thing. And so we set our goal for 2027 at 140,000 degree seeking students in that category. And are there limits to that? I mean, can you endlessly grow and grow and grow? I mean, the answer is no. But I will say something that Nancy knows I've been harping on a lot, and you might want to comment on this, and that is we're an underserving institution right now relative to this metropolitan area. So this is a give or take a 5 million person metropolitan area with one major university, one major public university. We should probably have twice the number of on-campus graduate students that we have from here. And we don't. And we're underserving in a lot of ways. And so Nancy, you want to comment on, I think Debbie's question is a good one, but
No, absolutely. I think this speaks to that we're certainly not there yet. We have a long way to go. If you think about level of degree attainment just in our state, we're underperforming, and that's at the undergraduate level, and it's even more serious at the graduate level, master's level. We really do need to prepare our population for greater levels of achievement, and we are the main game in town here. And so in that respect, we will grow.
So if you look at a county, if you look at Los Angeles County, California, and you imagine that it's 10 or 11 million people and we're 4.5 or 5 million people. So let's just say we're 45% of the size of LA County. I don't even want to begin to walk you through all of the institutions in Los Angeles County, California, and all of the scale of higher education in Los Angeles County, California, compared to where we are. The problem is that they started building more institutions 100 years ago, 150 years ago, and we didn't. And so ASU is taking some of this load. We've also been working to attract more colleges here, more universities here, Creighton University, other universities, other schools that are coming. How do you get more here? And so it's hard to imagine that we're underserving, but we are.
Thank you for that. This next question is from Alex Young, who says that he was heartened to hear from President Crow about the potential addition of new scholarship money for Arizona students. At Barrett, we're significantly impacted by the cuts to the New American University Scholarship and similar programs. Would similar merit-based scholarships be a part of the new scholarships that you anticipate?
Yeah, I'll make a comment and I'll preface it with we're not cutting scholarships. We're getting sick of giving massive scholarships to families that make $500,000 a year of family income. And so I know that can affect recruitment of certain students because they might go to this other college and so forth and so on. And the reason I bring it up that way is that merit-based scholarships have become almost a thing that people expect. Oh, I have a grade point of 3.75. And so therefore from an Arizona high school, so therefore I'm not going to pay any tuition. Okay, we don't get much money from the state for this. And so this is a very sensitive area of financial structure for us. And so I think where we're headed, and Nancy should comment on this, is as much individual engagement with the student as possible to build the package for them that helps them to be a successful student here, while we're not subsidizing wealthy families for sending their kids to ASU so they can drive a matte blue Maserati with a glass pack down University Drive that you might hear every once in a while. So Nancy.
Yeah, two things. We certainly know that many students have real need, and we don't want to jeopardize those students. So many students who will get the New American University, that won't be the only aid they get. They will still get need-based aid.
Yes.
So we're making sure to do that. And the other thing is that we are hoping, and we're watching closely, that it's not going to have a big impact because the Barrett Honors College degree is so valuable. And so that, we do believe that just the opportunity to study at Barrett on its own holds value. And so particularly for those students who have the ability to pay, they're still going to see that.
Yeah, so it is the case, and we live by this, that, we try to help every single student that has an inability to financially find their way through the university. What you'll see, for instance, in our financial aid chart in the OFR that we'll be sending out is a chart that shows that we have this huge increase in students from families with less than $60,000 of family income. And we have a huge increase in families with incomes above $400,000. Huge. One of their really expensive $12,000 motorcycles just went by my window out here. And so we're trying to be fair. Barrett Honors College is unbelievably successful. We're trying to make sure that everybody has access to it. And we're also trying to, because we don't have, so the reason for the question, I appreciate, is that if the state can invest more here all around, that helps us because we have very low state investment in financial aid.
All right, thank you so much. This next question is from Adrienne Jenik. She'd like to hear President Crow, Provost Gonzalez, your views on the ABOR requirements for general studies, specifically their requirements for particular subject teaching, American institutions, and direction also of the ways that we teach that subject. Is this a slippery slope where they will be dictating other subjects and ways of teaching? What is the role of the faculty senate in articulating the importance of faculty curricular oversight?
So I'll take an overall view of this. So, and then Nancy, you should jump in here. So Adrian, very good question. They don't want to dictate anything. They are the appointed volunteers that oversee the university. They want to make sure, because they believe the people of Arizona want to make certain that there are certain things that are taught in college. Now, how they're taught, when they're taught, that's up to us. I don't see them as becoming, getting involved in curriculum at the intricate level. They're setting more of an objective for us. It's also fair to say that if we say to the board that we have 500 different courses that can qualify you for your social science credit, or 300 different history and social science or philosophy courses that can qualify you for this or that, it's not unreasonable for them to say, and they're not talking about what's in the course, they're talking about, how do I know that the student took a course that's related to that particular need to understand things? And so I don't see them as getting down into the weeds. I see them, wanting to make certain that the students are given some guidance as to what they need to take from a mix of courses while they're here. Nancy, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, and I think that the thinking of it as broad objectives is the right way to think about it. And then it's up to us to operationalize that. It's up to us, the And, you know, I know that we've got we've had a working group working on this for quite some time now, with representatives from every college and from the faculty senate, and really trying to think through the broad objectives and then what that means for quality education and what we want our students to be able to have in their education at ASU that actually reflects who we are as an institution. So we think that ultimately we're going to produce a gen ed revision that is going to create more motivation, that's going to be clear for students to understand, that's going to really align with our own objectives as an institution and provide really solid learning objectives. The engagement of the faculty senate is very important. We're about to have these working meetings where people can, you know, contribute their input and help shape this up, so that we meet the broader objectives, but we are in charge of designing it.
Yeah, I guess I'll also just add, and that is, it's not unreasonable for a public board to say, well, you have 13,000 international students at ASU. Are they going to learn anything about democracy? Are they going to learn anything about American culture? They will by just living here, but in the classroom. And so those are, I think those, I've not encountered too many questions that were unreasonable. And I think the provost and the vice provosts that are working on this with the deans and the faculty leadership and the faculty senate, I don't think we're drifting down this path where this becomes a political thing, in my view. And Nancy, you're new to this, so I think that you've got it well under control. So.
All right, thank you so much. So there will be more discussion on this. By the way, for those who are still online, the Faculty Senate is going to be sponsoring a number of discussions, as Provost Gonzalez mentioned, with colleagues about the different general studies categories and the objectives that we would like to see reached. This last question, I just want to note that we do have a link that will provide a little bit more information about our relationship with Bilgi University and Doga College. But this last question is from Ann Sebren. I recently read several national news articles focused on the decline of enrollments in colleges of education as there are fewer individuals pursuing careers in teaching and education. Is ASU also experiencing this? And how are we responding given the potential impact on Arizona's future?
Well, Nancy, I'll just jump. In general, we're not experiencing enrollment declines anywhere. Now, there was an enrollment decline in our Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College a few years ago because we altered the admission requirements to that particular school and the degree tracking, degree pathway mechanisms. But there's no decline in demand that we're seeing. Nancy, maybe you're seeing something I haven't seen, but I haven't seen any decline in that.
No, we haven't seen a decline. We also have support from the Arizona Teachers Academy funds that help support students to pursue their education degree. And we also have been really focused on, how do we design educational programs that truly meet students where they are? And, so online degrees have increased significantly. So to the extent that we see some declines, it's actually shifting where students across the state are wanting online. And we're also seeing a great interest in the use of ASU Sync for delivery, again, to reach students from across the state. So we think our ability to have multiple modalities to meet the need is going to help us deal with this potential decline, but we're not seeing it overall.
Okay. Thank you for that. So we do have a few minutes left. Let me throw out to my faculty senate colleagues. Is there a question that anyone would like to ask of the president or the provost?
It appears that Hala King has a question here.
Go ahead, Madam.
Thank you, Dr. Crow, for the 25 actions you created to achieve social justice at ASU. Can we please get an update on some of the most important actions?
Well, I mean, everything's moving forward. I think none of them are easy. And so we've got the postdoc program is underway. The faculty recruitment efforts are underway. There's nothing that's dormant. Everything is advancing. We can get you a more detailed update on that by talking with the co-chairs of the committee that's working with us. But I think all in all, we've been very pleased with what's been going on, the faculty hiring in particular. accelerated hiring, some fantastic hires that were made in the last few months, even during COVID. I think we're making excellent progress. I will say that this is the next step on the ladder, not the last step on the ladder. We're not at the top of the ladder in terms of moving the institution to the level of equity and inclusion that we ultimately desire to attain. And so, Nancy, what do you want to add to that?
No, I will just say that every item on the LIFT initiative has been launched and is being implemented. And, it's a long-term game plan. But certainly, I think the most dramatic shifts have been in the hiring. In terms of our presidential postdocs, we have been, appointing presidential postdocs. Some of them have already, transitioned into tenure track lines.
And this means, by the way, spending millions of dollars to make these things happen also. So.
And faculty hiring, cluster hiring. We have a grad fellowship program that was launched, and these are fully operating. They've become, part of our systems in the provost office. So we are implementing these. I do think we need some more stories coming out so you can see the results of these. But if you just sort of look at if we're going to send the OFR out, President Crow mentioned, but if you just sort of look at the faculty that we've been hiring, even just in the few examples that are on those slides, fantastic hires. And what's great is it's not just coming in through cluster hiring and presidential postdoctor hiring. We've generated a renewed interest in a great, robust response in terms of bringing in diverse faculty.
So the units have been self-critical.
Absolutely.
They've gone in and said, why has this not happened at the level that we'd like to see it happen? Why have we failed in the past? What can we do differently? So we're seeing units rising up, which is really the way for the institution to be successful. So.
All right, thank you so much for your answers. We're almost right at 5 o'clock. I want to thank everyone who's joined us online. Thank you for making time in your schedules to speak to the president and the provost and to listen to their comments and to receive your feedback as well. And as always, as the University Senate, we are open and ready to represent you. And so if there are any other issues that you think of that we haven't addressed today, please feel free to contact any one of us on the panel, certainly your faculty Senate representative. And so again, President Crow, Provost Gonzalez, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.